Cruising is one of the best ways to travel for people of any age. However, if you're over 60 or 70, there are things to consider when traveling that we don't always talk about. In this video, I share crucial mistakes to avoid in order to save money, protect your safety, and have a better cruise. Hi there, I'm Ilana from the website lifewhilecruise.com. Welcome back to my channel. Now, if you are somebody who is 60 or 70 years old and you're planning a cruise, or maybe you're helping a parent or another family member with planning their cruise, these tips will help to avoid some crucial mistakes that unfortunately are made all too often, and they really can impact a cruise. Now, before I get started, I did want to mention two things. Firstly, you will not find any scare tactics in this video. It's all meant to be very practical. And secondly, if you like this video, if you find it helpful, informative, or enjoyable in any way, then please do give this video a big thumbs up. I really do appreciate it. And please subscribe to the channel if you haven't done so already. Let's get started. Number one, medication precautions. Be sure when it does come to packing for your cruise that you do not forget to bring any crucial medications. Now, one thing about cruise ships is they're not going to have a full pharmacy the way you're going to have potentially on land. So you want to make sure that you have everything you need. Now, an additional tip is to print out a list of your medications. This is important if you ever did need to replace anything, at least you had it. Now, don't pack just enough. Cruise lines always recommend bringing at least an extra few days of medication. And there have been cases, while rare, that cruise ship does have to be delayed, or even if you had a delay in your flight, you really do want to make sure that you have enough. Now, it's also a good idea to pack your medication either in its original prescription bottles, or you can ask your pharmacist for those blister packs, which are very convenient. Now, a little extra tip: always pack your medication in your personal or your carry-on bag, never in your checked luggage. If your checked luggage was lost or misplaced on your airline or even getting to your cruise ship, this could be crucial to your health. Number two, never travel without adequate medical travel insurance. Now, unfortunately, this is a mistake that people of all ages make. And the reality is, no matter what age we are, accidents can happen, medical emergencies can happen, even while we're at sea. And when you're on a cruise ship, the regular medical insurance that you have and use at home is usually not valid. Avoid overpacking, but not for the reasons that you might think. Packing lighter will actually save your back. Now, many senior cruisers shared that they learned that by packing lighter, they avoided some of the stresses of trying to navigate the cruise ship hallways, the cruise terminal, the elevators, especially on embarkation and disembarkation days when it is very crowded. And let's face it, if you have to go up the stairs with your luggage, that would be a huge challenge. Communication and technology. Now, don't make the mistake of leaving yourself disconnected while on a cruise ship. While you could do that in the past, it really is a lot more challenging to do these days. So I do suggest that at least one person in your travel party has a phone that can connect to the cruise line app. Now, without the app, you may miss activity changes, onboard specials, or urgent messages from the ship. Now, this even applies when you get off the cruise ship in a cruise port of call. If the cruise ship does need to reach you or other passengers urgently, you want to have a way that they can reach you by phone. It's a good idea to check into your cell phone's roaming plan, or otherwise consider an inexpensive eSIM for those days in port. Travel scam watchouts. Now, scams, unfortunately, especially those that are online, are becoming more sophisticated these days, and seniors are often targeted because scammers assume that they're a little bit less tech savvy. Now, I have an entire video all about cruise travel scams that goes into detail, but here are a few common ones to look out for. Fake booking websites or emails claiming urgent final payments. Phishing links sent through email or text messages promising free upgrades, onboard credits, or other perks. Fake cruise line phone numbers that you'll find on Google, and even taxi or excursion overcharging in port. Now, one of the reasons that scams have become more common is that it's easier than ever for strangers to get our personal information. Now, a lot of it's floating around online, even from data breaches that we may not be aware of. And if you've ever booked a flight, searched online for a cruise, or even browsed the internet, your information has likely been collected, bought, and sold by data broker sites that you don't even know. Now this is where Incogni, the sponsor of today's video, comes in. Incogni helps remove your personal information from these data broker sites, companies that collect and sell your details without your permission. Now Incogni works on your behalf to request the removal of your personal data, helping reduce spam, scam calls, and identity theft risks. Now it's super easy to sign up. First, you set up an account. It actually took me less than 5 minutes to set it up. Then you grant Incogni the right to act on your behalf to request removal of your data from these sites. And the best part is it's all done automatically, and signing up for the annual plan is best because then this can be done proactively each and every month, even as new data broker sites emerge. Now, I do have an awesome 60% off discount code on Incogni's annual plan, so I will leave my exclusive link as well as the discount code down below in the description of this video, as well as a pinned comment. Shore excursion watchouts. Now, we've actually seen some other passengers get injured on excursions, so they are not all the same, and it really is something that passengers have to be aware of when choosing excursions, even when booking with the cruise line. So firstly, you want to know your limits, and you want to know what is your physical ability, because what is easy to one person might be very challenging for another. Now, most cruise line excursions are going to be rated either as easy or strenuous or gentle and more challenging. So you want to really pay attention to that. Be aware of age limits. Now, in some cases, and it is rare, but there are some activities that actually do have upper age limits. And I know it upsets some people, but this often has to do with safety and insurance reasons. Now, a little tip when it comes to cruise shore excursions: when you are on board, there is a shore excursion desk. So if you have any questions or if you're unsure, don't hesitate to ask them. Cruise ship cabin precautions. Now, when it comes to choosing your cruise cabin, you want to be very careful in terms of the location. So I definitely would avoid a guarantee cabin if it is important to you where your cabin is located. Now, if you know that you're somebody who has a little bit of difficulty walking or any mobility challenges, it's a good idea to get a cabin that is close by to an elevator bank. Accessible cabins. Now, if you are in need of an accessible cabin, they are available on cruise ships, but they may be limited, so be sure to book those far in advance. Now, if you're using a mobility scooter or a wheelchair, most cruise ships are going to ask you to store that in your cabin. So you want to make sure that you check on the cruise line website for the recommended dimensions of your scooter. Now, unfortunately, if you arrive on the cruise ship with a scooter that is too large, you can actually be denied boarding. So this is more important than you might think. Now, don't worry if your scooter is larger than those dimensions. Cruise lines do work with rental companies, and make sure that you do arrange this in advance, but they are often available to rent and pick up right on the cruise ship. Choosing a cruise ship that doesn't match your priorities. Now, you do not want to be stuck on a cruise ship that might have a lot of kids if you don't want a lot of kids, or that's really big with water slides and zip lines if those aren't things that you really want to use. You may not want to be on a cruise ship with 10,000 other people. Now, if any of these things appeal to you, then absolutely you should do it. But if your idea of the perfect cruise vacation is good dining and good entertainment with like-minded people, not on a mega cruise ship, then it's a good idea to consider cruising on a smaller to mid-sized cruise ship. Avoiding falls and mishaps. Now, unfortunately, on cruise ships, falls can be a little bit more common on land, but it even can happen in cruise ports of call. Now, when you're on the cruise ship, be cautious of any areas that are wet. Now, what I'm talking about is not only the pool deck, which is honestly one of the worst places that I have actually seen people fall. There is some wetness that comes out of the pool. Be very careful of this. But the other area is also around the buffet. Sometimes there might be a crew member that is mopping, so be quite careful to stay steady on your feet. Now, when you get off the cruise ship in cruise ports of call, it's a good idea to wear supportive and non-slip shoes. Keep in mind that in many of the cruise ports of call, you might encounter uneven streets, uneven walkways, cobblestone, and even uneven trails that make it easier to fall and slip. Check your cruise itinerary for tender ports and plan ahead. Now, all cruise itineraries are a little bit different, and cruise lines don't always note when you're going to have a tender port. Now, you might be wondering, what is a tender? A tender is basically a small boat that will bring you from the big cruise ship to the cruise port if your cruise ship cannot dock there. Now, while tendering is less common these days, it's still something we see on Caribbean itineraries, Mediterranean itineraries, Canada, New England itineraries, and more. So what can you expect? Well, tender boats often require stepping over a gap or navigating a few steps, sometimes while the boat is moving slightly with the water. And you really want to assess your comfort level, because while you'll get a little bit of assistance from the crew, you still are expected to be able to hold yourself pretty steady on your own. Now, if you're somebody who is a wheelchair user, don't assume that you cannot take a tender. They do actually have a little bit of a platform that they're able to bring wheelchairs down. However, you're still usually, at least in the case of when I cruised with my father that needed to use a wheelchair for a few days, they were able to still bring the wheelchair down and to lift it up into the tender, but he was required to walk into the tender, which in his case he was able to do. Now, if you know that the tender is going to be a challenge for you or somebody else in your travel party, it's a good idea to check the itinerary and make sure that all of your ports are docking ports, or that you plan ahead, perhaps even to stay on the ship those days. Now, I have one more potential mistake that I almost never hear anybody talk about this. I think a lot of people just aren't aware of it. Then I do have a bit of a bonus tip. Not requesting wheelchair assistance during the embarkation or disembarkation process. Now, a lot of people just aren't aware that if you're not a regular wheelchair user, you can still request wheelchair assistance from the crew. Now, embarkation and disembarkation days often involve long walks through cruise terminal security areas and gangways, sometimes with your luggage in hand. And this service isn't only available for full-time wheelchair users. If you have mobility limitations or health concerns, you can request assistance. So how can you arrange it? Well, simply contact your cruise line in advance, or you can contact your travel agent for assistance on embarkation. And when it comes to disembarkation, or even some of the cruise ports of call, if you do need some assistance, you can head over to guest services to make that request. All right, here's the bonus and something important to remember. Age is just a number. And in cruising, just like in life, age alone doesn't define what you can and cannot do. And on cruises, whether you're in your 60s, 70s, 80s, and beyond, there are some people that are going to be very active. They're going to be hiking, they're going to be kayaking, they're going to be dancing, and other people are going to be less active, and that is okay. And one thing that I have always found is when speaking with people that are more mature travelers, oftentimes those are some of the most interesting conversations. Now, I am going to leave the link to Incogni's annual plan along with that 60% off discount code down below in the description of this video, as well as a pinned comment, and I would love to hear from you. Please let me know any of your tips that can help senior travelers out down in the comments below. I hope that you enjoyed this video. If you did, please do give it a big thumbs up. I really do appreciate it, and please subscribe if you haven't done so already. Bye for now, and happy cruising.